India mourns Ajit Dada.
मैं अजीत पवार जी के परिवार के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं।
Maharashtra loses its most fiery neta. Ajit Dada dies in Karambhumi, Baramati.
हम सभी के लिए इस प्रकार के जन नेता को खोना एक अपरिमित इस प्रकार की हानि है।
Visibility, human error or technical glitch.
पहले स्पोर्ट हो गया उसका पेट्रोल का उसकी, और उस पेट्रोल के स्पोर्ट के बाद हमने देखा कि किसका है लेकिन समझ में आ गया दादा का ही प्लेन है।
What led to Ajit Pawar's plane crash? That is a big focus on India First.
In India Today is getting you the latest CCTV images. These images have just come in. There's another CCTV camera that shows the final moments of that aircraft, and I want you to look at it. The aircraft is coming into land. What exactly happened at 8:43 this morning? That's when the aircraft was coming into land. It was on the final approach just before landing. At 8:18 in the morning, the aircraft, the moment, and it's a Learjet 45. It's a private jet, non-regular flight, a special chartered aircraft flying the Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Dada Pawar. So 8:18, it left the Pune ATC and then made contact with the temporary ATC at Baramati. Watch that. That's a CCTV camera image. That aircraft is coming into land, but is it flying normally? Is that a normal flight when an aircraft is coming into land, or was there an emergency? Because information that we've been able to gather, there was no mayday call. The first call that was made, and we will play out that exact sequence to you. India Today has been able to piece together that entire information, but watch that image. That aircraft is coming into land. Initially, the pilot tells the ATC, or the temporary ATC, which incidentally is operated by a flying training school there, that he's unable to see the runway. He then makes a loop. He loops around and then comes in once again. And at that final approach, initially he says he can't see the runway. He still can't see the runway. Then says, I can see the runway. But when an ATC and a pilot talk, there's always check, recheck, and you repeat the instructions that have been given to you. You play back those instructions. So he was given an instruction at 8:43 a.m. But then there was no read back of that same instruction, or that those instructions had been copied. And just a minute later, there was a huge ball of fire and plumes of smoke, and that aircraft had crashed, and multiple explosions after that. What does this indicate? That the aircraft actually crashed at the threshold. It crashed at the threshold of the runway. It crashed short of the runway. That's point one. Point two, this is a tabletop runway, which means the runway is on top of a plateau. There's a sharp fall on each side. So when it was approaching, instead of landing on the runway, was it CFIT or control flight into terrain? That's a matter of investigation. But that final CCTV, that final moments of that aircraft caught on that CCTV camera, the speed with which that aircraft is going down, was there a problem, and a problem that wasn't communicated, or will more information be revealed moment the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder are analyzed? The aircraft seems to be losing control. Watch that image. We've actually slowed it down for you to be able to see it carefully, effectively. The aircraft is coming into land. It's making an approach. The ATC asks the pilot, do you see the runway? Initially, he says no. Then seconds later, they say yes, they see the runway. Then when an instruction is given to him, approach runway 11, that instruction, that read back of that instruction does not happen. And then that devastating crash. Ajit Dada Pawar was on board this Learjet 45. It was flying from Mumbai to Baramati. Initial information post the crash indicates that the aircraft crashed at the threshold of the runway and then exploded in a huge ball of fire. instantly, sadly killing all 5 on board, including the 2 pilots, the personal security officer, and 1 cabin crew, and of course, Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Dada Pawar. The visuals are haunting. Twisted metal scattered all around, the wreckage, the towering flames after the crash. Now, what was supposed to be a very routine short-haul flight, it wasn't even a long flight, it ended in this devastating tragedy. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, has initiated an investigation. But India Today, we spoke to officials both in Maharashtra, in Baramati, in Mumbai, and of course at the Ministry of Civil Aviation here in Delhi and the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. And we've been able to piece together some information what may have happened. Baramati, incidentally, is an uncontrolled airfield. It doesn't have a regular ATC. Okay, Devendra Fadnavis, Maharashtra Chief Minister just reacting. Let's listen in.
उनका अपमान करना ये बहुत गलत बात है.
We will just play this out, who has been insulted and how. We will just play this out for you in just a moment. But initial information provided to us seems to indicate that the ATC is actually manned by either instructors or the pilot of the flying training school or the flying training organization at Baramati itself when they know that a flight is coming in. So as per statement of those manning the ATC, this is the sequence of events that we've been able to put together. This morning, the aircraft VT-SSK, it came in contact with Baramati at 18 minutes past 8 in the morning. The aircraft's next call was at 30 nautical miles inbound Baramati. This was when they were released by the Pune approach. They were then advised to descend gradually. It's called descend in visual met conditions at the pilot's discretion. So you come in gradually to land. The pilot has to make visual contact with the runway. The crew inquired about the wind and the visibility, because that's when the pilots then align the aircraft, knowing what the wind speed is, what the visibility is, and the ATC informed them that the winds are calm. The visibility was around 3,000 meters. Less than usual, which is about 5 kilometers, but that's in the Indian Air Force. For visual flying, it's not instrument flying. Instrument flying, you can even come in when visibility is much lower, but this is visual flying, not instrument flying. Next, the aircraft reported on the final approach of runway 11, but when it came on that final approach, the runway was not in sight. So they initiated a go-around in the first approach. A go-around is when you're coming into land, you don't see the runway, so you just gain height once again, you circle, orient yourself once again, come onto the flight path, orient yourself to the flight path, and then come into land. After the go-around, the aircraft was once again asked about its position, and the crew reported that they were on final approach of runway 11. They were asked to report runway in sight. Because when you align yourself seeing the runway in sight. They initially replied, runway is currently not in sight. We'll call when runway is in sight. A few seconds later, the pilot radioed back that the runway is now in sight. The aircraft was cleared to land at runway 11 at 0843 hours. 0843, 8:43 in the morning. However, this is where it becomes very crucial. The moment that instruction is given, the pilot is supposed to relay back the same instruction when he says, copy, land, runway 11. That read back did not happen about clearance. Next, the ATC says, no communication. Suddenly, the ATC saw this huge ball of fire, smoke at the threshold of the runway 11 at 0844 hours, 8:44 in the morning. Within a minute, at the threshold of the airport, of the airfield, the aircraft clashed. Emergency services, they rushed to the crash site. The wreckage of the aircraft was located on the left side of the runway, abeam the threshold, runway 11. So, Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, they've started investigations, both on Ground Zero in Baramati and of course in the national capital where the company's headquarters are located. What do initial investigations reveal? We get you more in this report.
Maharashtra is in mourning. Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar dies after his aircraft crashed while attempting to land in Baramati on Wednesday. CCTV visual captured just before the crash shows clear visibility and then a sudden plume of smoke rising from crash site. The key question: if visibility was clear, how did the aircraft go down? Ajit Pawar was headed to Baramati, his political stronghold amid Zilla Parishad election activity. He boarded a Bombardier Learjet 45XR operated by Delhi-based private charter company VSR Ventures. The aircraft took off from Mumbai at around 8:10 am. Flight tracking websites show a normal route, normal altitude and speed until the final minutes. But Baramati airstrip is small. One runway, 1,770 meters, and crucially, it's uncontrolled. Instructors at the local flying school fill in to do ATC duties. Ajit Pawar's flight took off for Baramati at 8:10. It contacted ATC at 8:18, was given clearance at 8:43. The first landing aborted due to poor visibility, and during the second attempt, the aircraft crash landed and burst into flames at 8:44. Baramati airport manager Shivaji Tavade says during landing, the aircraft deviated.
ये दुर्घटनाग्रस्त विमान जो है सुबह 8:45 बजे बारामती विमानतल के पास लैंडिंग होने के लिए उतर रहा था, तब ही इसका दर्दनाक हादसा हुआ है। रनवे और हाईवे इसका अंदाजा न आने के कारण शायद ये दुर्घटना होने की जानकारी यहाँ के लोग दे रहे हैं।
Eyewitnesses say the plane sounded unusual even before impact.
प्लेन ठीक से चल रहे नहीं था, ऐसा लग रहा था प्लेन क्रैश हो जाएगा। ऐसा नीचा, इतना नीचा गया कि वो गांव में गिर जाएगा ऐसा लग रहा था, लेकिन वो एयर ट्रैप पे आ गया, लेकिन उस एयर ट्रैप पे उतरा नहीं, बाजू में क्रॅश हो गया।
आम्ही पाहिलं पण एवढा मोठा त्याचा स्फोट झाला ना की आमच्या घरापर्यंत आला, असं ते फिरलं आणि खालीच क्रॅक झालं, ते धावपट्टीवर गेलंच नाही, तसं असं जाग्यावर त्याचा स्फोट झाला। आम्ही एवढं घाबरलो, तरी पण म्हणजे ते आले वरून पोलीस ही, मग आम्ही गेलो।
The owner of VSR Ventures claims the aircraft was safe and the crew experienced.
It's a very, very sad incident, very unfortunate incident for us and for VSR. We have been flying Mr. Pawar in and out to Baramati. This is not the first flight that we're doing now. And it is prima facie lag raha hai ki it is a matter of low visibility.
Now the DGC investigation will determine the cause: pilot error, runway conditions, visibility or aircraft failure.
इन्वेस्टिगेशन उसको भी हमने शुरू कर दिया है, तुरंत डीजीसी और एआईबी की टीम भी आई है, और जो प्रिलिमिनरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन या प्रिलिमिनरी जो समाचार हमें मिला है उसमें इतनी जानकारी थी कि जब वो लैंड करना चाहते थे सुबह करीब 8:48 AM के आसपास, तो उस समय विजिबिलिटी थोड़ा पूर था उधर।
As question remains, the nation mourns the death of the stalwart. With Vasant More, Bureau Report, India Today.
So is 3,000 meters visibility enough? Is it difficult to land on a tabletop airfield, a plateau? The pilot in command, incidentally, was highly experienced. He had over 15,000 hours of flying experience, and he wasn't just a commercial pilot license holder. He was an airline transport pilot license holder. The co-pilot had about 1,500 hours flying experience, and she was a commercial pilot license holder. And we'll explain the difference to you during this broadcast. Joining us on India First are two very experienced pilots, and one of them, of course, is former Director General of Flight Safety and Inspections, Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor. Welcome. Former Director General of Indian Air Force's Flight Safety and Inspections. Squad Leader Debolina Das is now a commercial pilot and an aviation specialist. Welcome. Air Marshal Kapoor, your first impression, given the information that's currently in public domain on the visibility being around 3,000 meters, pilots opting for a second approach, and even in that approach, initially saying runway not visible and seconds later saying it's visible, but sadly crashing at the threshold.
Good evening to you, Gaurav, and fellow panelists and the viewers. this early morning, if somebody has flown around Pune, you get morning haze and fog. It's normal in that area during the winters. The visibility required for Baramati is a VFR airfield. For benefit of your viewers, it's a visual flight rules airfield where you require minimum 5 kilometer visibility to operate at these airfields. There is no aid here. It means there is no ILS, there is no VORDME, there is no NDB, there is no RNAV, nothing, no aid to the pilot with regards to instruments is available for landing. It's only
So
visual.
it's
The
line of
pilot has
sight
to,
flying, no
yes,
instruments to
it
guide
is,
you, no instruments to
it,
help you land.
yes, it is total visual flying. So now when the aircraft typically comes in to land at a VFR airfield, the ATC asks the pilot, is the runway in sight? That is the normal condition, and then only is he clear to make an approach and landing. So in this case, what I gather from your channel and what I have seen and read, the pilots did commit that the runway is in sight and they were clear to make an approach. Now, informally, I read somewhere that the visibility was much lower than 3 kilometers. Now, it is not that the ATC, which has reported 3 kilometers, they are at a fault or something, but many a times in this haze, this thing, the lateral visibility is good, but when you come on the approach, the RVR, that is what we call the runway trans approach visibility, is less. So the pilots, in all probability, would have found difficulty in sighting the runway on final approach. From a height, you can see the runway. That visibility is good. But when you come in for landing, the thin layer of fog and mist which surrounds the bottom area around the plateaus is my appreciation that what would have happened. So the
My
crew
God.
continued at around the landing position. They cited poor visibility and went around. Like you covered, they opened power. They made another approach. Now, for benefit of your viewers, the runway 11 at Baramati is displaced. Now, why is it displaced? It is displaced because there are obstructions on the approach path. So the available length, which is around 1700 meters, has been displaced by about 300 odd meters. So the available length for landing, that is, we call it landing distance available LDA, is around 1400 meters, which is around roughly 4,500 feet to the pilot. Now,
Okay.
this would have been playing on the back of the mind. And also, I read somewhere that the fuel is not available in Baramati.
So
It
they were
means there is
carrying
no
extra
refueling
fuel.
facility. So he has to have the fuel in the aeroplane for the return leg also. So the aircraft would be heavier because it is having fuel for the return journey also. So coupled with a missed approach, coupled with a reduced runway length, and the added pressure of having a VIP on board also plays on the mind of the pilot. It happened during General Rawat's crash.
Yes, that was terrible.
In yes. So
That was a
20,
CFIT, but a control flight into terrain.
yes,
But I'll come to
but
that just a moment. Okay, go on. Complete your point, sir. Complete your point, sir.
in the second approach, in my appreciation, when the ATC asked him, "Do you have the runway in sight?" First he said no, but when he said yes, he would have spotted the runway very late. So one visual which I am seeing, there's a massive bank onto one side
Yes.
to align and land the aircraft, and the margins are so low close to the ground that you have to roll out and execute into a landing. And in this process, in my appreciation, he would have mushed into the ground, or something. The reaction time would have been too low for him to make a landing out of it. This
And
is my
that would have been
premise.
so painful, when you mush into ground, a virtual control flight into terrain, if I may. But Squad Leader Debulina Das, the pilot in command, had 15,000 plus hours of flying experience. The co-pilot had about 1,500 hours, but an eyewitness said that the aircraft crashed, just short of the runway, 100 feet before the runway. So, in your view, you concur with the Air Marshal that it was perhaps unable to align with the runway at the final approach, descended too soon because of the fuel it was carrying, maybe it came too low because of the shorter runway that was available. How do you see the situation, your appreciation?
Good evening, Gaurav. I mean, whatever Sir said is perfectly adding to the situation. And if I have to think for some more reasons, one thing is in the morning 8:48, a runway which is facing the east 1-1 has the sun in front of you. So the sun is in your eyes. Your visibility is already being affected by the sun falling on your eyes. Firstly. Secondly, as sir said, there is low haze or low level cloud. Now, these low level clouds are in sheets. Sometimes you are out of it, sometimes you again go into it. Now, when the pilot must have done a go around in the first approach, he wanted to align himself properly so that he has the runway inside throughout the circuit that he is making. But when you turn, the turn to the final in a jet aircraft which has a high speed, it is a slightly tight turn. Like basically, if you climb too high in the circuit, then you will lose the runway. If you are low but your speed is more and you have to turn and align, it generally happens that it becomes a tight turn. Now
And
when
it does
you are
appear in those pictures, that video, if you can see it on India Today, that new CCTV camera, it does appear to be a very tight turn that the pilot seems to be making here, ma'am.
Yes, so if it is a tight turn with the captain on the left side doing a left tight turn, it is very difficult for him to be able to gauge the distance vertically with the runway when there is shifting fog or there are layers of fog. So at a moment he lost it, the next moment he might have seen it. But we don't know whether the next moment again he was not able to see it because he couldn't give the call to land. And
And then there
also,
was no time, because this is a
yeah,
time that
he
you're
was
so
very
low
close.
that
He was maybe the speed was more. He was in a tight turn, and then if I could add, if sir agrees with me, there is a concept of stall. Stall is that the aircraft loses its controllability. If the speed is more and you are in a turn, generally aircraft stall at a very low speed. If the speed is reducing, and then the aircraft stalls, means it loses its
So does a
control.
Learjet, does this aircraft give a stall warning, on instruments, or this aircraft doesn't? Larger Boeings and Airbus, it does
No,
give a stall warning.
every aircraft is supposed to give a stall warning. But when
Every
you
aircraft
are
gives a
very
stall warning.
close, yes, mostly all these jet aircrafts. This is this Learjet 45 XR is a highly equipped, well
Yes.
avionics aircraft, and it is. But what I suppose that when you are in a turn, the speed for your stall increases. Like suppose if
Absolutely.
you
So, Air Marshal Kapoor, let me also quickly bring you in. Are these tabletop runways more difficult to land? Is it more difficult to land on a plateau and more difficult to take off from? Because Captain V.K. Singh, managing this VSR Ventures company, he says they've landed at Baramati many times. He himself flew Ajit Dada Pawar there recently. So, according to him, they know this place like the back of their hand.
Tabletop runways are good if everything is good. But if you recall, we've had an accident at Calicut. We've
Yes.
had an Air India crash at Mangalore. These both are also tabletop runways. So tabletop runways, have a peculiarity. We have one Avantipur in J&K
Kashmir.
that is also on a plateau. So typically, what happens at these airfields is that you do not have a perception of continuous ground. Invariably, when you come in for landing, the ground appears to you in a particular way. But in a tabletop, it is just you approach at the beginning of the runway. And like I told you, in here, the runway is displaced by 1,000 feet due to obstacles. So I have no landing experience at Baramati, but my guess is there would be obstacles on the short finals. That's why the runway is displaced. And also, it's on a plateau. So by the time the crew has picked up the threshold, by the time they have decided, and if the pilot on the left is flying, it is difficult for him to spot on the right because the aircraft has gone into the ground in the left. So he is not in a position to pick up the runway on the right, and it's a visual runway. So he would be in a process of identifying, and then, like she said, could have stalled. With excessive bank on one side. This is prima facie my appreciation. Yes.
how long before we know what happened, the cockpit voice recorder, the flight data recorder, because that readback of the instruction to land, there was no communication after that. So perhaps the CVR and the FDR, the flight data recorder, Scholar Develina, that would have information?
Definitely, that will definitely have information. We will be able to get all information once the investigation takes its first steps. The decoding of the CVR, the FDR will give what were the parameters, even if it has stalled, not stalled, if there was any technical problem at the last moment, if the engine has had some problem, if the flight controls have had some problem, or if there was a conversation between the crew inside the cockpit, whatever they
Right.
faced will be available.
Sir, you've carried out multiple investigations as Director General Flight Safety and Inspections. How long before the picture emerges? How long does it take to decode what's in the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder? How does this investigation proceed from this point?
The AIB team, as you just mentioned, would have arrived. So they immediately look for FDR and CVR, the two things that are essential, which are pulled out of the aeroplane. I don't know where is the milking setup for this aircraft. Is it in India? Is it abroad? So these are packed and sent to that agency for decoding the whole thing. So preliminary investigation after the report has been analyzed typically takes 4 to 5 days, to reach a conclusion, because the parameters of the rate of descent, speed, angle of attack, thrust, power, settings, slats, flaps, undercarriage, all the things which compound for an accident close to ground are analyzed. So with artificial intelligence and machine, these are fed now, and a simulated flight path is then carved out after actual feeding. So there are computers now which realistically give the flight path. So that when it is brought, and the others collaboration and the things on ground, the impact, like we teach in accident investigation, if the engine is at low power, how much is the impact around that crash site? If the speeds are very high, how far would the tail would have flown off? All those parameters are checked, and then a conclusive thing, both by seeing on the ground, CVR, FDR, and simulation, it is extrapolated that this is the reason, and preliminary
And we'll be
report
tracking that
should
story
be out.
very closely. I want you to stay on with me now, because politics on this is escalating. Remember, Mamata Banerjee, the Bengal Chief Minister, she asked for a Supreme Court monitored investigation. News just coming in. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has strongly hit back at Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, accusing her of politicizing the death of Ajit Dada Pawar to score political points. Devendra Fadnavis says he's ashamed that such remarks have been made. He says this is like invoking death in a political discourse, and targeting Ajit Dada Pawar was deeply insulting and, in his view, completely unacceptable. Listen in to Devendra Fadnavis. I'll get you more on this big story.
मुझे बहुत दुख है कि ममता दीदी जिस प्रकार से राजनीति में नीचे के स्तर पर जा रही है, ये अपने आप में बहुत ही दुखदाई है, बहुत ही गलत है। इस प्रकार का बयान उनको नहीं देना चाहिए था। इस प्रकार से एक हमारे बहुत करीबी और महाराष्ट्र के लाडले नेता के निधन पर राजनीति करके उनका अपमान करना, ये बहुत गलत बात है।
डिप्टी सीएम जब वो थे तब मैं मंत्रिमंडल में था, मैं मुख्यमंत्री था तब हमारे मंत्रिमंडल में वो डिप्टी सीएम थे। आज देवेंद्र जी सीएम है, हम लोग उनके मंत्रिमंडल में एज अ टीम बनकर काम कर रहे हैं। आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के मार्गदर्शन में ये महाराष्ट्र को आगे बढ़ाने का काम हम साथ में मिलकर कर रहे थे। इसमें बहुत बड़ा योगदान हमारे अजीत दादा पवार जी का भी रह चुका है। जितनी भी योजनाएं हमने करी है तो उसमें हर एक विषय की जानकारी रखने वाले अजीत दादा फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर थे। कई योजना, लाडली बहनों जैसा योजना हमने की तो उससे भी खर्चों खर्च का तालमेल बिठाने का काम अजीत दादा ने किया। और ऐसी परिस्थिति में
So Eknath Shinde there, the Deputy Chief Minister, remembering his colleague and friend Ajit Dada Pawar very fondly, especially on the Ladki Behna scheme. He was Finance Minister of Maharashtra for very long, 8-time MLA from Baramati. Though he was more for fiscal prudence and against freebies by and large. But then right now our focus is the politics around his death. And you just heard Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis saying it's extremely unfortunate the kind of politics Mamata Banerjee is indulging in. But it's not just Mamata Banerjee. There are several political parties who say that there should be an absolutely transparent, detailed investigation. Mamata Banerjee, of course, says that it should be a Supreme Court monitored investigation. Let me get you more in this report.
मैं अजीत पवार जी के परिवार के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं।
I need proper investigation under the supervision of Supreme Court.
Shock, disbelief and tears. India tonight is in mourning. Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar died after a chartered aircraft crashed near the runway of the airport in Baramati.
मैं अजीत पवार जी के परिवार के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। जिन साथियों को हमने इस हादसे में खोया है, इस पीड़ा की घड़ी में हम सभी उनके परिजनों के साथ हैं।
Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis and Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde have ordered a probe. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has already begun its investigation.
हम सभी के लिए इस प्रकार के जननेता को खोना एक अपरिमित इस प्रकार की हानि है। व्यक्तिगत मेरे लिए वो एक बहुत ही दमदार और दिलदार इस प्रकार के मित्र थे।
ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही बेहद दुखद है और महाराष्ट्र के लिए भी दुखद है, उनके परिवार के लिए तो बहुत ही दुखद है।
But the tragedy is now triggered a political storm. Several opposition leaders are demanding a high-level inquiry. Mamata Banerjee has gone a step further, seeking a probe under Supreme Court supervision, alleging a conspiracy.
Few days ago, I came to know that from social network that somebody from other party, they gave a statement that Ajit Pawar is willing to leave the BJP. And now what happened today, I need proper investigation under the supervision of Supreme Court. Only we have the trust on Supreme Court, no other agency. All the agencies are being totally purchased.
The opposition insists the crash must be thoroughly investigated. SP and Congress both backing Mamata.
जो कंपनी है, जिस कंपनी से ये दूसरा हादसा हुआ है, उसका जो मेंटेनेंस है वो कौन कर रहे हैं, किसके द्वारा मेंटेनेंस किया जा रहा है, DGCI का क्लियरेंस था कि नहीं था, ये सारी बातों पे जांच होना चाहिए।
तो एक बार को ये बात तो साफ होनी चाहिए कि आखिरकार ये घटनाएं क्यों हुई। पूर्व में भी कई हमारे VIP इसी तरह उनकी जान गई है।
The BJP hit back strongly. Union Minister Ravneet Singh Bittu slammed opposition leaders for raising questions.
एक पॉलिटिकल आदमी तो छोड़ो, कोई अनाड़ी आदमी भी ऐसा बयान नहीं देगा जो ममता जी ने आज काम कर दिया। आज एक्सपोज होने की बात है और मैं समझता हूँ भी वो इतने पैनिक है, इलेक्शन में इतना वो घबरा गए हैं, कहीं ना कहीं पैनिक अटैक है जिसके लिए उन्होंने ये बयान दे दिया।
यह हवाई दुर्घटना का विषय है तो वैसे भी हवाई दुर्घटना के जांच के इंटरनेशनल प्रोटोकॉल्स बने हैं और उसकी जांच अवश्यंभावी होती ही है। निश्चित ही इस पर भी विस्तृत रूप से जांच होगी।
With AAIB now on the ground and multiple agencies examining the crash, as politics heats up over the tragedy, the question remains, what led to the crash? Bureau Report, India Today.
Big statement coming in from Sharad Pawar, the NCP patriarch. Sharad Pawar has rushed to Baramati. He rushed to Baramati earlier this afternoon, but he's just issued a strong statement. He's urging restraint and he's rejected any political angle to this crash. Sharad Pawar says it's purely an accident. There should be no politics over this tragedy. And it's a tragedy of a huge scale, he says. He's called it an immense loss, not just for his family, but for the state of Maharashtra. Sharad Pawar says Maharashtra has lost a tall leader whose absence cannot be filled, and that there should be no politics over this tragedy, or words to that effect. Listen in.
लेण्याची शक्ती ज्यांच्यात आहे अशा व्यक्तीला महाराष्ट्र आज मुकला. हे काही नुकसान झालं ते भरून निघणार नाही, पण सगळ्याच गोष्टी आपल्या हातात नसतात. मी आज मीडियासमोर येणार नसतो, परंतु काही विरोध करतात. हा अपघात याच्यामागे काहीतरी राजकारण आहे अशा प्रकारची भूमिका कलकत्त्यावरून मांडली गेली. याच्यात राजकारण नाही, हा निवड अपघात आहे.
It's an accident. Don't politicize it. Sharad Pawar is very clear. But why is Mamata Banerjee seeking a Supreme Court monitored investigation? Is there reason for it, or is this just politics ahead of elections? Joining me on this broadcast, and Mamata Banerjee isn't the only one. There are several Congress leaders who are saying exactly the same thing. Bhavna Sharma, Jain spokesperson, Congress party, she joins me on this broadcast. Shikha Mukherjee is a senior journalist from Bengal. She covers the TMC, understands Mamata Banerjee's thinking. Shikha Mukherjee joins me on this broadcast, as does Anand Ranganathan, author and consulting editor, Swaraj. Shikha Mukherjee, let me begin by asking you, is this fear-mongering by Mamata Banerjee? Is there a reason for her to be suspicious that she is asking for a Supreme Court monitored probe?
I don't think she has any reasons to be suspicious before even a preliminary report on what actually happened is out. So, because look at the timing when she actually made the statement. So having said that, let me also say that, Gaurav, we are now facing a huge trust deficit in Indian politics, where if as you yourself said, the Congress party, the SP, all of them are asking for a probe. It is this trust deficit which is evident in Mamata Banerjee's demand. The Supreme Court angle is Mamata Banerjee doing over-the-top kind of reaction. But it's not that everybody else is not asking for a probe. The point really is that while one can appreciate Mr. Sharad Pawar's reaction, because it is a huge loss for the family, it is also a huge loss, as he correctly points out, for Maharashtra politics. Mamata Banerjee's demand, or rather the demand of several opposition parties, that they need a neutral, transparent probe, is in the present circumstances probably a reaction which is not unexpected. On the other hand, what emerges is that instead of saying that, things will take its own course, blah, 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 maybe to kind of put a damper on the situation, to prevent it from going on and on and on, perhaps less, calling it shameful, saying that this is unfortunate, etc., finger pointing and all that. Maybe the government should actually ask for an independent inquiry.
So,
Just to put a
in
damper on
view of the
things.
TMC and the opposition, is the Aircraft Investigation Bureau not Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau not an independent body, not transparent? Because a probe is monitored by the world, and especially when it comes to aircraft accidents, it impacts everybody. At times, including the original equipment manufacturer, they are called in. But Anand Ranganathan. Whether it's Ajit Pawar's incident today or the helicopter crash that killed, sadly, General Bipin Rawat, the first CDS, or the crash in Gujarat where Vijay Rupani and so many other passengers were killed in the Air India crash, or so many others in the past, including Madhav Sindhya and others. The demand this time is for a Supreme Court monitored investigation by Mamata Banerjee. Your reading of this?
Good evening, Gaurav, and good evening to my fellow panelists on this terribly tragic day, and my absolutely sincere condolences to the families of the bereaved. It's a very tragic loss, I have to say this. Very quickly, 2 points I need to make. One, especially on this day of all days, I did not want to discuss politics. And I won't, except to say that it is absolutely distasteful, the kind of remarks that many opposition parties and their leaders are making. It is beneath one's dignity to even respond to those, except to say that Miss Banerjee, possibly her middle name is Conspiracy Theories. Please remember that she believes that Pulwama was carried out under a cloud, that BJP was hand in gloves with the Pulwama thing. Then in 2012, she peddled a theory that the communists and others wanted to assassinate her. Every year, there is some new theory that is peddled, and this adds to that. Secondly, there is another, and I don't even want to name that person. They are saying that this is something that has been hashed by BJP to instigate two-thirds split in the Ajit Pawar faction so that they avoid the anti-defection law and join the BJP so that BJP gets a majority and Sena's hold on BJP lessens. This kind of politicking is just so distasteful, especially today. But where I do agree with Mamata Banerjee is in that limited point that there should be a Supreme Court investigation, but not on the question that she is insinuating. What I want is an investigation that the resemblance to very recent crash that happened, Gaurav, and you covered it. Thank you for doing that. During the Char Dham Yatra, the chopper crash that killed 7 people. The resemblance is eerie. Even here, you had a landing where there was no ATC support, where there is no live weather monitoring, where there is no live radar. Exactly the 3 things that happened in the Char Dham disaster. So I want to ask, should there or should there not be a rule, or at least Supreme Court or our legislatures should debate whether prominent people like President, Prime Minister, Chief Minister, Deputy Chief Ministers should be allowed to land at what is this, for example, this airfield is called an uncontrolled airfield. Or if at all they are allowed to land, they should be using a chopper rather than a plane.
And rather than a jet. And that too, let me bring in Bhavna Sharma Jain into this conversation because Bhavna Jain, it's not just Mamata Banerjee, but Gaurav Gogoi, Digvijay Singh, Lalu Prasad Yadav, and so many others. So is there something in specific that the opposition knows that the nation doesn't know just as yet? That there are many calls, not just for a transparent investigation, and there must be one, but the calls for a Supreme Court monitored investigation, madam?
Gaurav, this morning, Maharashtra, people of Maharashtra and the people and the nation woke up to this horrible, horrible tragedy. We have lost in Maharashtra a great leader, one who worked for the people day and night, and he was committed, he was hardworking, and his track record proves it. And so, his tragic loss, and that too in a plane crash, people of Maharashtra are asking for answers. They want to know how this could happen, how our leaders are not safe while traveling in so-called New India, where we should have the world-class facilities in our airports. The aviation sector is supposed to have taken off and given, especially the smaller airports were supposed to be developed. And so why our leaders, our lives,
are at stake here, and not just leaders, the 5 people who have died with him, the 2 pilots and the PSO and the lady who was the staff. So my condolences is not just the life of Ajit Pawar ji, who was a great leader, but 5 lives have been lost today.
Okay.
And it
so,
is
Shikha Mukherjee, there is a laid down procedure
now,
for aircraft investigations, and we were just having a conversation with our aviation experts a moment ago where they laid out how an investigation is carried out. In your view, when the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau carries out a probe, there are other stakeholders that are involved, OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers. They are called in, the cockpit voice recorder, the flight data recorder, that's sealed. Often it's sent overseas for milking, or deciphering. So, like in the case of late Madhavrao Scindia, for example, or others. So, was that also suspicious, or only this is suspicious?
I am not going to say anything about suspicion. I am talking about that this is an accident which is just something that needs to be investigated. People of Maharashtra and the nation need to know what happened. Why this same company had a plane crash 2 years back, exactly the same kind of plane, and the plane split into 2 while landing, and
Mumbai,
thankfully at that time those people survived. And unfortunately, the same aircraft
Shikha Mukherjee, come in and respond to this one. Ravneet Bittu says, the BJP leader says, this shows Mamata Banerjee is panicking. She's trying to fish in troubled waters, or words to that effect, ma'am.
Well, let's put it this way. This is the run-up to the election. The BJP will sort of put its own spin on it. Mamata Banerjee has put her own spin on it. The fact of the matter remains that, as one of the speakers just a little while ago pointed out, that the conspiracy theories are already circulating. The problem is that in this overheated political situation, where distrust of the opposition and the ruling party between the center and the states has reached a point of such distrust that some kind of transparency needs to be done and needs to be seen to be done. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And Mamata Banerjee, if she's milking it for all it's worth, she has her reasons to do it, just as the BJP is indulging in the kind of name calling that it has done. Therefore,
Anand Ranganathan, is there reason to suspect a cover-up? Because, the 2 pilots who were sadly killed in this crash, they were not kamikaze pilots. They were not suicide bombers. Unless there's something else that's suspected, perhaps with equipment malfunction. We'll only know that after a probe. They've lost their lives. The aircrew, the PSO, they've all lost their lives. So should the political leaders hold their horses till the Aircraft Investigation Bureau files its preliminary report?
Is that a question to me, Gaurav?
To Anand Ranganathan.
Okay.
Sorry, was that to me, Gaurav?
Yes, Anand.
Yeah, no, I mean, the previous panelists, with due respect, I mean, to say that because conspiracy theories are circulating, it gives credence to the fact that there is trust deficit. Conspiracy theories are always circulating 10 times more than what real theories are. I mean, I gave you one example where Mamata Banerjee, as well as the Congress, still believe that Pulwama was carried out by the BJP. In fact, a Congress leader said that Imran Khan and Modi were glove in hand, hand in glove, to conduct the Pulwama attack. Now, what can you do about it? Would you say there is trust deficit because these are circulating? No. But I repeat, there is something called tragedy happening. And Gaurav, there is something altogether different called tragedy waiting to happen. So there has to be an investigation. Why, when you have an airport that does not have a live ATC, live weather reporting, live radar, you are allowing prominent leaders of states and of nation to land?
Oh, absolutely. That's a fair point. But, Bhavna, you want to come in the last 30 seconds that I have on this part of the show. Shouldn't leaders hold their horses till the preliminary report is filed? Or is there reason to believe that the AAIB report will not be transparent?
Gaurav, I feel that the people in power should actually come forward and say that a neutral investigation will be carried out. And so, everyone will be on board with that. So why not, when we have lost such a great leader and lost 5 lives, why not come forward and say that we will have an investigation to rest any and all questions that may have been raised as to what happened, why. So I feel that, Fadnavis ji and the leaders of Maharashtra should come forward and offer this on their own and say, yes, we will conduct. And, so all questions for the nation and for the people of Maharashtra who have
No, but my question is, why would you not trust the agency that is mandated as per law to carry out the investigation? Is there reason to believe that the agency that is mandated to carry out the job is not doing its job? And I leave our viewers to decide that, but I want to thank all my guests because I've run out of time on this part of the show. But this is a story we'll be tracking very, very closely. And it's a really tragic day. We've lost Ajit Dada Pawar, the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, the pilot, the co-pilot, the air crew, one lady air crew, and the personal security officer. Condolences to the next of kin.